Thank you, Mathieu, very much. The next person I would like to introduce is Professor Kuypers, yes, who has worked. We're very honored to have her here today because you've worked with psychedelics, I think, for plus 17 years, something like that. So I think we are very honored. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me here. I'm very pleased that Is it on?
No, push the button.
I have to press the button all the time?
No, just one time. Yes,
perfect. So, again, for those who did not hear it, thank you very much for having me. I'm really pleased that I can be here with you. On this first, it is something special, the first symposium. And you've done also great work, I think. I think you started a couple of years ago. You also contacted me, I remember. Oh, closer.
Sorry.
Okay, no,
Sorry.
No, fine. I'm going to figure out how to navigate my slides. Oh yeah, here you have the first one. It are my disclosures. So I do studies, but sometimes they are financed by companies. Like MindNet, we're doing some studies with microdoses of LSD in healthy volunteers and patients. The Beckley Foundation, we have done some studies with psilocybin and LSD. Silopharma, we're going to start a study with psilocybin and ketamine, not in combination, separately. And MAPS, MDMA research, and I'm also advisor of Clerkenwell Health. Why do I do that? Because sometimes people find it important that you notify people about this. What I also wanted to say is both Mathieu and Lennart were talking about it is important that people know about this psychedelics, and that's true. But I also know about two associations or organizations that give, how do you say that, attention to this. And one of it is Psychedelics Europe, and also part of it, and the other one is Parea, and that was, they had their first meeting this week. And what we try to do is try to involve the parliament in this type of research so that they know about this and that they put it on the agenda. And if you have some time, please visit the website of Parea. I think they recorded the whole thing, and there were very good speakers, and there was also a patient telling about his experiences. And now I enter, when Lennart was doing the introduction about the Psychedelic Society, I thought, oh shoot, here I enter with my party drugs and my hype. But I'm glad that Mathieu already said, well, MDMA is also accepted to fall under the umbrella of the psychedelics. Usually I also say you have classical psychedelics, you have MDMA, and then you have ketamine, and also cannabis. I think that's also part of the novel medicines that can be used in the future. So yes, I will talk about these two things, and I hope, I have to start my timer because I have the annoying characteristic that I do not stick to time. But it starts running now. So I want to tell you, for those who do not know and who only know about the bad side of this, so I want to tell you what MDMA is, and I'm going to walk you through the www of MDMA. So what is it? I always tell people it is not ecstasy, it is what you expect in ecstasy, in an ecstasy tablet or capsule. So if you're talking about it, please distinguish these two. Because it's very important, in clinical trials we use MDMA, we do not use ecstasy. So what can you find in ecstasy? You can find harmless. Yeah, let's not go into that. But you can find caffeine, regular substances, but also amphetamine. And another example is PMMA. And why is this so bad? Because PMMA has similar effects to MDMA, but it does not come up that fast. So if you take MDMA, and you think, I'm not feeling anything, I take another tablet or pill, then it can go wrong, because you can overdose then with PMMA. And here you can see the effects that can arise. So, how do we know about what is in a capsule or a tablet? Because we have in the Netherlands, I work in the Netherlands, I was also thinking, Mathieu is a Belgian, I'm a Belgian, and we both work abroad with these substances. So you have DIMS. It's an organization where you can give your tablets or whatever you're going to take or want to take, and then they test it either immediately or when they cannot analyze it at the spot, they send it away. And then that is actually very good when they find things that you do not expect in these tablets. They send out warning signals. And I just saw, I think yesterday, again a warning signal they send out, and it was also about MDMA. It was about the liquid MDMA they now found in bottles, which can be very damaging because you can overdose quickly. And I always try to stay away. I thought, oh shoot, I always give the message to people when they talk about liquid MDMA, it's not MDMA, it's GHB. But apparently they now also have real liquid MDMA. So yeah, be aware of that. What I also find important is to talk about doses with you, because, and I will link to that later on in other slides. So here you see a graph where you see on the y-axis the amount of, or in colors, you see the amount of MDMA in an ecstasy pill or tablet. And you can see in 2003, most of the capsules had an amount of 36 to 105 milligrams. So that were the most we found. And you see also the evolution that the higher dose capsules or pills become more prevalent. And then here, I did not find a graph with all of the dates, but here, and I really have to look closely because the colors are different. And so now it starts, I have to look myself. The red is 106 in the left one, and in the right one, that is the blue. So you see that what is red here is dark blue there. So you really see this shift that the capsules or tablets are becoming more high dose. What you also see is there is a difference in graphs because the light blue on the left, you see it as different colors. The purple, that are the higher dose tablets, more than 140 milligrams, but in the right graph, you see that they distinguish even between these. Anyway, the point I wanted to make is the capsules are becoming higher and higher dose. And then I found this and I put the references beneath it. Have a look at the website, very interesting. They always have an annual report. They say compared to, I did not find the findings of 2020, but they say last year there was less MDMA in the tablets compared to the year before. So, but it's still high dose. And then the next W, who uses it? I included this slide just to make it clear that a lot of people use it. This is also a valuable website to go to if you want to learn more about the drug use in Europe. It's the EMCDDA. They do annually these questionnaires. And here you can see that cannabis is the most used drug, and here I only present the data from the 15 to 34-year-olds. So you also have data from people who are older, who also still use drugs. And I also put in the slides the Belgium against Europe, so you can compare it yourself. You see that MDMA is in the top 3 of pleasure substances. And then also you can have a look at the graph. It's an older graph, but I used it back in the days to state, look, in the Netherlands the preferred substance is ecstasy. But it can be that it already shifted. That's still interesting to see. And then why do people use it? I think you can cluster it under the 3 E's, euphoria, empathy, and energy. It's to feel closer to other people, to socialize. And when do you feel these effects? So I've put these graphs on the slides to show you what we assess in the lab, in the test situation. So you see on the top is blood pressure, then you have heart rate, and then the subjective effects. and you see that the peak comes around 90 minutes. You see that for the subjective effects very well, but for the, what is it, the heart rate, or the heart rate is a bit earlier that it peaks. And you also see, so you have to look, sorry, at the orange arrow, and and then the bluish one, that's placebo. So you also see that these effects peak, but they also go away within 4 to 6 hours. How does it work? So here it looks like we know how it works, but that's not the case. So we roughly know how it works. On the right-hand side, where it's stated normal, you see 2 neurons. So the parts, if I had a pointer. Oh yeah, here. Can you see the arrow? Oh no, you cannot see. So when the brain is signaling, neurotransmitters come out of the neuron, and then the neurotransmitters connect to these receptors. And then you have communication in the brain stating, ooh, you have to feel good, or you have to do this or that. When you take MDMA, what happens is that MDMA binds to this greenish thing, and what is it? It is a transporter. What does it do? If you have MDMA in the cleft, so in the room, in the space between these 2 neurons, it cleans it up. So you can reuse your serotonin. What does MDMA? It keeps this occupied. So serotonin cannot enter the neuron again. So it stays there and it stays communicating. But what it also does is it makes this transporter work in reverse. So it binds to it, and it even puts even more serotonin in the cleft to communicate it. And that's why you feel the effects you feel. But that's not the whole story, because it also acts on other neurotransmitter systems. It also elevates oxytocin levels, so that's the hormone, cuddling hormone they call it. But I've talked a lot about recreational use, but that's not, and when you talk to people, please make the difference. Sure, people take ecstasy, for reasons to enjoy life, or to socialize, or to enjoy the party, but you also have the therapeutic value of MDMA. And it should be clear that when people take it for recreational purposes, they do not always know the dose or the purity. I told you about that. They combine it with alcohol or other substances. The context in which they take it, it's not always very protective. You do not have a medical doctor or a psychologist standing next to you to comfort you if you're having a rough time. And the intention is different, to party or to get rid of your problems. It was already known long time ago, in the 70s already, that MDMA could be of use in a psychotherapeutic setting. But then Mathieu already told it, it came to an end, the research. And then in 2002, Rick Doblin, he's the director of the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, he wrote this. He said, look, MDMA therapy can be of use for people suffering from PTSD. And I find it so, I have to tell about him, because he is really persevering. He started MAPS 30 years ago, and he's still working to get MDMA there for patients, because he sees that it can be something. We're almost there. So what are other indications for MDMA therapy? There are some data that it works in eating disorders. That was also part of a trial in which they tested these PTSD patients. We know that it's, and again, like Mathieu said, it are all small trials, but finding positive effects. We need still larger trials to tell us, give us a definite answer. It helps in social anxiety for people who suffer from autism spectrum disorder, ASD, and also in alcoholism. And then, potentially other indications too. Also, again, repetition, but repetition is good. I have been talking about MDMA, and I really have to remember myself. I know it, but sometimes people do not know it. It's not only MDMA, it's in combination with therapy. It's not that you're taking an MDMA pill and that the world turns pink and that everything is, all your problems are gone. It is a tool that you can use in therapy to make the therapeutic process easier. And it's built up out of these three stages. But you've heard of it, so I will not go into detail anymore. And here is also a part of the article in the upper right corner where Rick Doblin explains why MDMA could help in therapy. And this is how it can look like, very warm. So how MDMA therapy can look like. It's a warm environment where the patient is laying on a bed with eye shades on, with music. And then you see in the upper right corner how it's structured. So you have the screening, preparatory session with MDMA, integration sessions, another session with MDMA, again integration sessions. But here it's not clear yet how many sessions one could use or needs. This is now the model, giving it twice. There have also been trials where people received it 3 times. But we're still searching, and I also saw on the slide of Mathieu, he said psychological support, but we also do not know yet what type of psychological support would optimize the process also after the MDMA sessions or psychedelic sessions. It's not that you're going to do therapy during, when they are under the influence, it's after, in the aftermath. What I wanted to share is, so I went to this, I joined this session of Parea, and really, if the recordings are online, watch it. But there was a patient who was telling about his experience. And he said, and all experiences are different, but he said his mother was raped and murdered when he was in the house upstairs. He was upstairs, and after everything happened, he knew that something was happening. The perpetrator came upstairs and was staring at him. So this was his trauma, and he said back in the days he did not talk about it. It was just one day off school, and then he went back to school, and that was it. So he was severely traumatized, and then he underwent MDMA therapy. And he said, for me, it was, he said, during the session with MDMA, he saw himself sitting on the bed and together with his mother. And he said that they were talking to each other, and they also saw the perpetrator, and they were talking to him, and they forgave him. And this was his experience. So coming to terms with it and really finding his peace. So I liked it. It was a very beautiful story of a person. But I also think that he said that he could use more sessions. And this is something that you hear also from people who participated in these trials, that problems resolve. But it can be that after that they need more treatment or care, but it's not yet available, and that's the frustrating part. So this is really something that I had to build in, because I'm telling these fairy tales how you use MDMA. Is it so positive? Because people state, oh yeah, I looked that up on the internet. If you look it up whether MDMA is safe, you come across these things, these infographics telling you what the immediate acute effects can be, and also what the long-term effects can be. And it's quite, how do you say that? You would be shocked if you read that you can become dependent, that you can have long-term problems, that you can become depressed, that you have liver problems. Is it really like this? People ask, can you die from it? Can you become addicted? Is it damaging to your brain? And I think that are valid questions if you're going to receive something. I put this here because I think a couple of weeks ago there was a huge dance festival here in Belgium, and I was driving somewhere and I heard this on the news and thought, oh, okay. So it stated there are very dangerous ecstasy pills on the festival. And then I'm a bit worried, because we are not motivating people, but we're talking to people and stating, oh, we have this new therapy, you can enter a study, and then they say you can die from, they state that from 125 milligrams, an ecstasy tablet is potentially deadly. no, that's not right. Yeah, but then you read this in the newspaper and you become, as a parent, you also would become alarmed, I think. But that's not true. It's not true like it's stated here. You need a very high dose. And I also showed you the doses people are using, and a lot of people are using it and not dying. And here you see that more people die from heroin, cocaine, alcohol compared to ecstasy. So to give you the message, yes, it is. You can die from it, but then when you take it in high doses, or when you combine it with other substances, or when you drink lots of water and your brain swells. If you look at the numbers of the emergency treatment, you also see MDMA there, and it's a sixth substance. So when people take it and end up at an emergency treatment facilities, you see that 9% of all these cases are due to MDMA. But what you also notice is that there are benzos on this list, just regular medicines. And what it says is that people do not take it the way you should take it. And then you end up in emergency treatment. The question whether it's addictive, you could say, so physiologically it's not addictive. Your body will not crave for MDMA. If you take it too frequently, then it will only have its stimulant effects and not its more soft socializing effects. It will just be like an amphetamine. Is it physiologically dependent, creating dependence? That could be the case. And again, I've looked up the numbers for people who are looking treatment for MDMA dependency. And here you see that 0.4% of the people looking for treatment is due to MDMA. And then you also see the other numbers, cannabis, amphetamines, cocaine. These problems are larger. And why do I say that? Because sometimes people think, oh, it's a soft drug. Yeah, it's called like that in the Netherlands, but it's really not that innocent, and we should talk about this. Will patients become addicted when they enter MDMA therapy? And then I think it's about framing. So they will take it 2 to 3 times. It is in a controlled setting with a clear intention to get rid of their condition, or get better. And it's a total package. So they will not pop a pill and do it on their own, but it's with 2 therapists and with guidance. I really have to speed up. I see that I'm already... I will talk faster. So, very important. Will your brain disappear if you take MDMA? So we rely here on studies with animals. So here you see squirrel monkey. Years ago, 20, 30 years ago, they did this research. They gave MDMA to these squirrel monkeys. Here you see, and I'm just going to tell it very roughly. Imagine that you see serotonin neurons that are stained. It are the transporters, but doesn't matter. So this is the picture, and this is what happens when they received MDMA. So if you see this, then you think, I have to stay away from MDMA because I will not have a brain left after it. But we have to pay attention to the dose. So they received 5 milligrams per kilogram intravenously, twice daily, for 4 days in a row. Will anybody ever take it like this? No, I don't think so. So, and this is in the C panel, you see, so they kept some of these squirrel monkeys for 7 years after treatment. It's very good that they did this. And you see, after that, they sacrificed them. And here you see what happens with the serotonin neurons. So there is regrowth, or it becomes better, so it's not detrimental, but it never becomes the same again. But again, not to scare you, it is different from the therapeutic context. In the therapeutic context, you will only take it 2 to 3 times. And also remember, everybody is taking alcohol, very neurotoxic. Mathieu already told this, so I don't have to explain what phase 2 and phase 3 studies are, but in Europe we're now at phase 2 studies with MDMA. In the States they entered the phase 3, or they are at the phase 3. So it will still take some time, and I could not really hear what Mathieu said about terms. I thought he said within 2 to 5 years. Was it? Yeah, no. I think it will take longer, but let's put a bet on it. So, quickly, just a couple of slides about the hype. I'm really crossing time. I think it deserves attention because it is a lot in the media, microdosing with psychedelics. What is it? It's taking psychedelics in tiny amounts, not to have hallucinogenic experiences, but just to improve something or to enhance creativity. So how do we do it? We did some research, and we know that here I show the Fadiman schedule. James Fadiman is very well known for his microdosing research. He said, if you take it one day, you experience the acute effects, the day after you experience the subacute effects, and the day after that you return to baseline. And then you can compare and can think, does it help for me? And then you redose again. I'm not going to explain how to do it, you see it on the slide. This is a quote by somebody who took microdosing. He said, I overcame my depression, I became more productive, more happy, and it served as a creative booster. So we were interested, do people take microdosing to help themselves? So this is a study we did, and we found out that part of our participants take it to get relief from their psychological and physical symptoms. So we asked them, do you also take conventional treatment, or have you ever taken it? And compare it. And then here you see, everything you see is that they found that self-medication with microdosing was better than their conventional treatment. So for ADHD, for depressive disorders, anxiety. We also asked them if you compare self-medication with microdosing with a hallucinogenic dose, it was different. So they said it is beneficial for ADHD, but for depressive disorders and anxiety, they thought that a hallucinogenic dose was better. So it's now up to us to find out for which disorders it is good. Is it safe? I'm always almost near to the end. Is it safe? It is tolerated if you give it to people. The question will be, because you also know if you take psychedelics, you develop an immediate tolerance to the effects. So if you're going to give it repeatedly, what will happen? And we also need to know if it's safe on a biological level. We showed, put it on the slide. We showed that in healthy volunteers, one small dose of LSD can decrease pain perception. And we're now going to start a study with psilocybin in small doses in patients with fibromyalgia to understand whether it helps. I'm going to skip this. Do we need this? Because we have conventional treatments. Why not take them? Why not take as is rice? I think you really have to listen to the patient, what problems are, and really also ask psychiatrists what they experience in practice, what difficulties they encounter, and then see whether that is better with MDMA or microdosing. And yes, it looks promising, and it will also not help everybody. That also has to be made clear. So this was my talk. I want to draw your attention to. I've written a book. It's not there yet, but I've finalized it now. It's really to tell the story about all these substances and to explain it to people what these substances can mean for mental health. And I will also be talking on the Whisper Festival. I also want to draw your attention to this because you might be interested in that too. That was it. Thank you for your attention.